Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Honor to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened one. My utmost respect to the perfectly enlightened Samma Sambuddha, the noble doctrine of the Buddha, and the noble Mahasangha, the disciples of the Buddha. Hello everyone. Welcome to our special Dhamma chat today. It is with great joy and a sense of personal connection that I welcome Venerable Ajahn Kovilo to today's Dhamma chat session. Okay. Hello, Venerable.
Greetings, Monte.
Yeah,
So good to be here with you.
so good to see you. Okay.
Yeah, that was better. I was kind of peeking out over the top of your head.
Okay. Right. Okay. So, Ajahn Kovilo is our guest monk today. He is someone I have met. I have had the privilege of meeting and practicing with on multiple occasions. From our time together at the Empty Cloud Monastery in New Jersey, to our recent encounter at Aranibodhi Hermitage in California, I have witnessed firsthand the depth of his commitment to the Dhamma and the wisdom he embodies as a monk. Ajahn Kovilo's journey into monastic life began in Ohio, where he was introduced to meditation through the Goenka tradition. This transformative experience set him on the path that led to his ordination in 2006 and full ordination at the Abhayagiri Monastery in California in 2010. Under the guidance of Ajahn Passanno and Ajahn Amaro, over the years, Ajahn Kovilo has trained extensively in the Ajahn Chart tradition in both America and Thailand, and has enriched his practice with a year of intensive meditation at a Pauk Sayadaw Monastery. Currently, Ajahn Kovilo is pursuing academic studies in Pāli and Sanskrit at the Dharma Realm Buddhist University in Ukiah, California, while also participating in the establishment of Clear Mountain Monastery in Seattle. Despite his busy schedule, he continues to make time for community engagement and spiritual practice. During our times together at the Empty Cloud Monastery, I was deeply impressed by Ajahn Kovilo's humility, his profound understanding of the Dhamma, and his ability to connect with people from all walks of life. Whether we were engaging in monk chats, going on alms rounds, or simply sharing a moment of quiet reflection, Ajahn Kovilo's presence was a source of inspiration and calm. Most recently, at the serene Aranibodhi Hermitage, we continued a wonderful time and shared in the practice of mindfulness and meditation. And these experiences have provided me with a unique insight into his compassionate approach to teaching and his dedication to living the Dhamma in every moment. So today's Dhamma chat is a great opportunity to delve into Ajahn Kovilo's vast knowledge and experience. We will explore topics ranging from his early days in meditation and monastic training to his current academic pursuits and vision of the future of Clear Mountain Monastery. This is also a chance for you, the online audience, to ask any questions from you might have about the Dhamma or Ajahn Kovilo's personal journey. So let us warmly welcome Ajahn Kovilo and take the advantage of his chance to deepen our understanding of the Dhamma through his insightful guidance. Okay,
Bante, that was so nice. That was very nice. Yeah,
right.
it's good to see you again. Yeah.
Yes. So, Ajahn Kovilo, uh, could you share with us what initially drew you to the Goenka tradition and how this led you to uh, your decision to ordain as a monk?
Yeah. Yeah. Let me just first say, Bante, it was a pleasure. I don't remember if we even lived together for a month when we were there at Empty Cloud together, but I feel like I feel a very good connection with you, and it seemed like it was much longer than it actually was.
Right. Yeah,
And then seeing you again, it seemed like no time had passed at all. So, yeah,
I remember you also sharing Dhamma talk with our channel some time back.
that's right.
Yeah,
Yep.
almost a year ago.
Yeah. Yep. Well, myself, like many Americans, and I think many people who weren't raised in Buddhist countries, the Goenka tradition was really our Dhamma door in many ways. I was a university student in Massachusetts at the time and was taking classes on religion and had started reading the Dhammapada and was interested in spirituality, but had never really sat meditation by myself for any length of time. But I had a friend who said, Ian, that was my lay name. He said, Ian, you should go to these Goenka retreats. They're amazing. It's 10 days and it's free.
Hmm.
And at that time, I didn't have much money. I don't think I had hardly any money, but was able to sign up for one of these courses. And at that time, it was fairly easy. And this was between my first and second year of university at a school called Hampshire College. And there was a Goenka retreat center in Shelburne Falls, a little cute little town. And I signed up, and I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, but was willing to give it a try. And my friend really raved, said so many good things about the experience, and it really changed his life. And so I entered it. I was 20 years old at the time, just before I turned 21, which was a good thing because I had never heard about precepts before. Obviously, like most Americans, had started drinking before I'm actually legally supposed to. But then heard about the precepts and started trying to keep the precepts basically right after that retreat. It really changed my life in a number of ways. I started meditating religiously. I wasn't a religious person, was raised in a Unitarian family, which is just a very liberal denomination of spirituality. And yeah, became devoted to meditation and tried to keep the precepts. And the whole 10 days, I mean, similar to my experience with you, it just seemed like it was a lot longer than 10 days, but had enough experiences of extremely high highs and pretty low lows just within that 10-day course, and enough for me to realize that I really needed to train my mind and that that was something which humans could do. So pretty much after that, really changed my trajectory in life and started going in the direction of more and more Dhamma. And yeah, that was, I didn't know why I was going other than that I was interested and a friend recommended it to me. But entering it, it really did show me that it was something that my life was sorely lacking, is a trained mind. So, somewhat of a long answer. But
Yeah, I think um, your experience can also inspire a lot of young people, you know, especially the people in the West who are trying to find a path. You
mhm.
know, there are a lot of people who want to find a path, and yeah, I think, and that's why we need to have this kind of chats, this kind of sharing, so that a lot of people can be benefited. I'm wondering if I met the one you mentioned today, like we had Ian here too. Is that the one? I don't know. He comes here quite often.
Hmm. Is
Yeah,
he a layman?
yeah, that's right.
Wow, I would be very surprised if it was. This was an old friend
That's
from
right.
20 years ago.
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe another one then. Right, right.
Huh.
Okay, Ajahn, let's go to another area. What are some of the most transformative experiences for you during your early years at Abhayagiri Buddhist Monastery?
Hmm.
You can talk about Abhayagiri also because I think it's one of the foremost monk training center in America.
Hmm. I agree with that. It's a really, and not just because that's where I ordained, but just have so many beautiful monk brothers that have trained there, and it's surrounded by a really wonderful group of lay people as well that come on a regular basis. So I did my first Goenka retreat, I think it was 2003, and then it took me about 2 years well, it took me a year to realize that Goenkaji was teaching Theravada Buddhism, and then it took me another year to realize that it was possible to ordain as a monk um, in America. But by that time, I was fully in, and I knew what I wanted to do. So went and lived at another monastery, actually Wat Metta in Southern California, beginning in early 2006,
Mm.
and stayed there for a year and a half. And it didn't, yeah, it wasn't really a good fit. So ended up moving up to Abhayagiri, and that was in late 2007. And soon thereafter, I became an anagarika. So that's part of the training at Abhayagiri Monastery. It's a gradual path, like the whole of Theravada Buddhism is. You go and you see, if you're interested in staying there, you see what the life is like. You meet the other monastics there, you meet the lay people. And if someone wants to pursue monastic life there, then they ask to take the anagarika ordination. Anagarika means literally homeless one, and that's keeping the 8 precepts and wearing white for a year. It's a year-long commitment. So after 3 months or so, if things go well, um, yeah, you haven't, if the person who wants to ordain hasn't totally kind of made themselves not really fit in with the community, then the community says, yes, you can come and stay and train. And that's what I did. That was beginning in 2008. And I have to admit that I was probably hard to live with. I was probably hard to live with at that time. Uh, coming from a Unitarian background, there are not very many rules.
Mm.
But when I came to Buddhism, specifically Theravada Buddhism, and learned more about monasticism, I basically spent about 6 or 8 months before I moved to Wat Metta just learning about all the monks' rules, and became very idealistic about what a monk should be. I had no context. I had never met a monk in person before I went to Wat Metta, and I
Wow.
just had all these ideals about what a monk should be. And then I come to these monasteries and I'm just finding fault all over the place. I
Mm.
like look and see, okay, this monk's not an arhat, this monk's not a arhat, and I'm just, yeah, seeing, okay, greedy monk, greedy novice, angry novice, and I don't even realize that I myself am just totally seething with conceit and, yeah, that it really unbeautiful mind states. So I think I was hard to live with. So, but I was allowed to ordain as an anagarika for a year. I
Mm.
took that on very seriously, and even though I was probably a pain to live with, after that year, you're allowed to request novice ordination to become a samanera. And I requested it, and they let me stay. So very happy about that. And trained for another year, and that's the general practice. So you're living at Abhayagiri for about 2.5 years before you can ordain as a fully ordained bhikkhu. So that's what I did, and I requested ordination halfway through my samanera year and was given ordination in July of 2010. And I think maybe one of the most transformative experiences was actually being given ordination. One of the great things about the training at Abhayagiri is that it's not just the abbot, Ajahn Pasano, or my early training, Ajahn Amaro was there as well, but the whole community is giving you feedback. So we have meetings every 2 weeks where everybody gets together. They're called heart meetings. And you've got several rounds where the monks... Heart, yeah. Yes, and pretty much 7 out of 8 meetings are just very friendly. You express gratitude. I'm very grateful for this. But then 1 meeting out of 8, kind of deeper emotions come up. And yeah, I was getting feedback on a regular basis that I was being hard to live with. And I think it was when I was finally allowed to ordain after, I'd moved to monasteries in 2006, 7, 8, 9. So 4.5 years I was wanting to be in robes. And I was just so grateful that I was allowed to ordain, that it totally flipped in many ways, my relationship to fault finding. I really just was much more easily able to access gratitude, as opposed to only being able to see what people are doing wrong, and to have a more realistic idea of my own capacities and other people's capacities. So that was one big thing that I'm really grateful for.
Very wonderful. Thank you so much. And so maybe we can move a little bit towards the training in monastic life. I think that will also be very helpful. So according to um, your profile, we can see what are some of the key lessons or teachings you have learned from training at various monasteries in the Ajahn tradition in both US and Thailand?
Yeah, thank you, Bhante.
I think you can also speak Thai, right?
Thai, yeah, I can. I'm fluent in Thai, but I'm still improving for sure. I can have a very good Dhamma conversation, but there are whole realms, like I've learned Thai totally in monasteries. So like talking about food, or talking about, soccer game, or I don't know all the words for that.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I lived in Thailand for about 6 years total, kind of going back and forth. So have a good amount of experience, a little bit with different monasteries in Thailand. Just some of the formal lessons. So at Abhayagiri, from the very first time that you take ordination as an anagarika, as a trainee, the only formal study, for the most part, that happens at Abhayagiri is during the 3 months range retreat. So from roughly July through October, we get together and study the Vinaya, the monks' rules, a couple times a week. It can be as much as every single day, for anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. And we're usually using the Buddhist Monastic Code, which is Ajahn Tenisaro's amazing summary and outline of the Buddhist monks' rules. So we go into depth into that every single year. So that was huge. And we're talking about this. So we're not just reading the Buddhist Monastic Code, but we've got the whole community is together, all the trainees, all the novices, all the junior monks, all the senior monks, including Ajahn Pasano, who was the abbot during my early years. And we bring up the rules, and then everyone will discuss. So what is considered a rule and what is considered breaking a rule? And the senior monks will give their experience on how it's actually lived. So I was receiving a really holistic picture of, here's what's on paper, here's the black and white of what it means to keep rules. But here's the actual lived experience of how to live that in daily life in a way which is inspiring. There are many ways to keep rules which are uninspiring. If someone, like monks, we don't eat afternoon. And if someone, say we're outside the monastery and someone tries to give us food, I've seen it, and monks can be very rude, even just say, no, we don't eat food afternoon, or, very rough and kind of uninspiring ways to show that one is being strict. Whereas we've got these great examples of senior monks who've been living in the robes for a long time. And I would certainly consider yourself in that role as well. And so that was a Bayagiri, early years of training, and learned so much just from seeing Ajahn Pasano, Lumpur Pasano, who is the abbot. He's been in robes for 40 years at that time. Now he's been in robes for 50 years, and he just has so much experience, and living so close to him, being his upataka, his attendant monk. So staying very close to him for, long periods of time, and traveling with him to Thailand and seeing how he's so skilled, maybe the most skilled of any monk I've seen, in being able to take the traditions and the principles of Thai monasticism and bring them, of Dhamma really, as it's lived in Thailand, and bring it to America. He's just so skilled at shifting from audience to audience or person to person. And so yeah, I was able to travel with him in Thailand and see how he could do that so seamlessly. I could talk a little bit more, but I feel like I'm just
Yeah,
going on and on.
we will have some questions.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, definitely, I think it's so important to have a wonderful kalyana with the teacher, right?
Yeah.
So you can be in touch always, and you will be corrected in your formative years, especially as a monastic, and it's so amazing. Also, I remember like some of the experiences we had when I was also traveling from one monastery to another. Both traditional and forest traditions. I was so inspired. I learned many things too, and I was really humbled by their wonderful, inspirational, motivational practice. Yeah, it really
Hmm.
makes so much sense
Hmm.
when we are together with wonderful Kalyan with the friends around. And you are so lucky to have wonderful monks like Ajahn Prasanno and Ajahn Amaro, you said? Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, those, I think they have been doing a great service to the Buddha Sasana in the West. Yeah, you're extremely lucky.
Yes, very
Right.
much. Yeah.
So my next question will go to your practice in what do you call Myanmar. Not only in Thailand, you said you were inspired by Goenka tradition,
Mhm.
Goenka meditation, and then you ordained under Thai forest tradition, and you had a lot of exposure to that beautiful, powerful, one of the most leading Buddhist Theravada Buddhist schools in the world. And how did your years of practice at a Phao Sayadaw Monastery influence your meditation practice and understanding of the
Hmm.
Dhamma?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I had the good fortune to meet Pa'ak Sayadaw when I was in Anagarika in 2008 at Abhayagiri. At that time, he had been invited to spend one or two vasas, one or two range retreats, not too far from Abhayagiri, actually. Yeah, it could have been somewhere around 2010 or later, but yeah, I met him at that time and was so inspired. And his just ability to quote suttas and to talk about a very, very orthodox way of practicing. Like everything he said was so by the books, specifically not just the Pāli Canon, but also the Visuddhimagga, which I was very inspired by. So I actually even thought about leaving the Ajahn Chah tradition and going and ordaining with him and following him around and ordaining in the Pa'ak tradition. For myself, uh, I'm glad that I stayed with the Ajahn Chah tradition. I'm glad, well, one is that I was able to ordain in America. There aren't really, as far as I know, Pa'ak Sayadaw tradition monasteries that ordain Westerners in America. Or if there are, they're certainly not the type of training environments with many monks that exist, or such as Abhayagiri is. And yeah, ordaining in America was good for me. It's where my parents live. I've got a home base at Abhayagiri, and I've been learning how the culture that I grew up with accepts and doesn't accept, and blends with and loves the Dhamma and kind of pushes certain aspects away. And so I'm glad ordained in America. But yeah, I had that initial inspiration. He was so inspiring, and he emphasized meditation, formal meditation in a group setting. The forest tradition of Ajahn Chah is amazing. They also, Ajahn Chah himself and all of his disciples also emphasize formal meditation, but they don't so much emphasize formal group meditation like you would find on a Goenka retreat or like you find in Sayadaw forest monasteries. So the idea at a forest monastery in the Ajahn Chah tradition is you get together for morning meditation, which might be 20 or 30 minutes of chanting and then an hour of sitting meditation. And then you work together as a group until the meal. So that's a couple hours. And then everybody goes off to their own huts, which are scattered around the forest. And then you pretty much spend the whole afternoon by yourself, meditating or study or doing walking meditation. Every hut has its own walking meditation path, and every hut is separated from every other hut. You can't see the other huts and you can't hear the other huts. So you're very much by yourself. And then you get together again in the evening for evening meditation. But you've got this huge period of 6 or 7 hours after the meal where you're just practicing by yourself. And that's great for people who are really motivated when they're motivated. But I found for myself that there were times when I wasn't so motivated and I couldn't, put the hours into practice, which I believed were essential for being a proper monk, being an appropriate monk. I felt like I needed to be meditating more than I was. So I found out about this Sayadaw Monastery actually in Thailand. So I could go and speak with the abbot who spoke Thai, and the other monks there speak Thai. But it's about, when I was there, which was just 5 years ago, the abbot was Thai, but there was a Burmese Sayadaw who ordained in the Pāli tradition. Very, very sweet monk, as the abbot as well was sweet and inspiring. And there were probably 40 monks there, or 50 during the Vasa. And I'd say that 20 of them were Thai. Maybe 20 of them were Burmese, 15 or 20. And then another 5 to 10 were international. So one monk from Spain, some monks from Vietnam or Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. And the beautiful thing there, why I went there, was for the formal group meditation. They're sitting meditation all day. You've got 8 to 10 hours of formal group meditation on the calendar, on the schedule, every single day. And the monks are doing it every single day, except for, there might be a Buddhist holiday when we'll do a ceremony for about 2 hours in the afternoon, but then we come back and everybody keeps on meditating, which is very different from in a group, different from what I grew up with. And it was good, but it was very, very hard. And honestly, it was not sustainable for me. I was very inspired. I felt that that's how a monk should live. That was in my mind. Having started in the Goenka tradition, every monk should be meditating 8 to 10 hours a day. And if they're not, then they're lazy and they shouldn't be a monk, and all sorts of high ideals, which I don't think that anymore. I feel like the monastic form, the way that it's laid out in the Vinaya, if monks can keep the rules, if a person can keep the rules, be sincere, try to meditate as much as they can, cultivate wholesome dhammas, they can do that off the cushion. So, and that's very much how the life is set up at Abhayagiri, with maybe 3 hours of formal group practice together, but then cultivating wholesome dhammas, kusala dhammas outside of that is a more sustainable path. And I just found after 6 months to a year of this, 8 to 10 hours a day, that although it looks great on paper, and I wish that my heart was able to keep up with it, I just did not. I found my heart getting a bit dry. The meditation object was just focusing on the breath at the tip of the nose all day for 8 to 10 hours. And while I wish that I was totally able to immerse myself and absorb myself in that in a way which seemed nourishing, that wasn't the case. So I want to be a monk. May I be a monk for my whole life. And that wasn't a form which I could do. So that's when I just started looking for to look for other options, and remembered that I had gone tudong, or gone on pilgrimage in America, and I visited the city of 10,000 Buddhas and the Dharma Realm Buddhist University, and that maybe going back to university in a Buddhist context, could be something which would sustain my holy life in a way which was more realistic than trying to force myself into a 8-hour a day mold, which, just practically speaking, was, yeah, a bit grim. It was
That's
grim.
crazy, right? But yes, I think the exposure you had both in Thailand and both in Thailand and Myanmar, some of those Theravada strongholds, would definitely help you more, not only deciding which path to take, but also maybe to be in between. And sometimes, like even I feel like, I need some rigorous practice, so I could select that path. And then if I want like little bit relaxed, like off the cushion practice too, we need that. I think you said it right. Like we also need to be practical of the question. You need to be mindful, you need to cultivate, develop those wholesome qualities. That also could be, so meditation is not only sitting, it is standing, walking, working, talking, everything, like the Buddha said in Satipatthana Sutta, gate, thite, nisinne, sutte, jagarite, sampajana, kariyote, right? You have to be mindful about what you do. It's not only like completely absorbed. It's good. I mean, it will be very helpful for a practitioner to develop concentration. But then again, you need to apply that theory into practice when you deal with certain people in the society. I
Mm.
myself feel very honored to be here at the Empty Cloud, for example. I feel it very peaceful. So when I go back to California, I feel that traditional setup, and yeah, I can also encounter many people. I can work with them, work for them. Yeah, it's a beautiful balance. I feel.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Bante. And having teachers or mentors, people like you who are examples. I mean, you got a PhD as a monk. I mean, and you're a great monk. You're a really friendly and inspiring monk. And to have other examples of different ways to be in robes
Mhm.
that work and are inspiring. It's wonderful to have that.
Yeah. You know what? I when I was doing my PhD, it was taking little too longer. I felt like when I'm going to finish this. Sometimes I felt like I want to practice and I want to go to empty cloud. I want to go to Big Bear meditation center. I also want to work with our other temple. Then in the back of my mind, hey, I have PhD to finish. So it was a constant struggle. I felt like it was a hindrance if I could not finish it. So I decided, okay, time, I should finish. And then
Mm,
I finish it off, and now after that, I feel so released and relaxed. It
mm.
definitely helped me a lot too, because my topic was about the Arahantahod. Yeah, so that's separate subject. But my question, I think, to you is about that. Like, how do you balance the traditional monastic lifestyle with the modern demands of studying and teaching in the West?
Mm. Yeah, it's a good question. Um, I feel like, as I've mentioned before, having mentors and teachers who've done it. Ajahn Pasano, ordained in Thailand, was an abbot of Wat Nanachat, the International Forest Monastery, for, I think he was the abbot there for 10 years or so, lived in Thailand for 20 plus years before he moved back to America and founded Abhayagiri. He founded several monasteries, several small branch monasteries, Puchomkom and Daodam. But having him come to America and, yeah, see what rules are important for us to keep, and what rules can we look at and see, oh, what was the spirit behind this rule? something which Ajahn Suchito, the British monk, disciple of Luang Por Chah, said, is that in the West, we've had these experiences, we meaning he was talking about the Ajahn Chah senior monks, have this experience tightening some screws and loosening other screws in terms of the strictness of rule keeping in these different monasteries. And that's very true. One example is just going on alms round. Part of that in the Vinaya, the earliest Vinaya, was that monks should not wear shoes. So I'm totally fine with that. I've got hard calluses on my feet. Going on alms round in Thailand, I had no problem walking on jagged little rocks, which other soft-footed monks, have problems with. No problem for me. But you go on alms round, and this happened at Abhayagiri during their early years. The monks walk barefoot through the town, and you do that every week. And then after some time, lay people started offering shoes because they thought the monks didn't have any shoes. So now it's the korwat, it's the main practice that monks going on alms round at Abhayagiri in the local towns wear shoes, because that's just the culture in America. But balancing, monastic lifestyle, which is in part keeping our rules, but is also, as you were mentioning, Bhante, is cultivating kusala dhammas through the whole day. So bhavana, the word which is oftentimes translated as meditation, of course, just means to develop. So how to cultivate the wholesome dhammas of monastic life, which include study, which include some level of generosity, giving up, chaga, with the demands of study and teaching in the West. So now actually, that biography which you read is a little bit, it's only very slightly out of date. I graduated from Dharma Realm Buddhist University just last month, or the month before that, in May. So I'm a graduate now. I've got a degree from it's accredited university, Dharma Realm Buddhist University. It was a 4-year program, and it was really useful. I enjoyed many aspects of it and was very grateful to receive a very generous scholarship from them, and have learned many things, not just about Buddhism. The main reason I went there was to improve my Pāli, which I think I accomplished to some degree. But yeah, it takes time. Just the time in class for those 4 years was, I'd be in class for 4 to 5 hours, 4 to 5 days a week. And then homework, doing all this reading, all of which is not Buddhist. So we had a Western classics class where we're reading things like in the Western canon, so the Bible and Homer, and more modern things like Tolstoy or Nietzsche, etc. And honestly, cultivating bhavana, cultivating wholesome mind states while reading, is a specialty skill which I haven't really, which I have a lot more that I could learn from. But yeah, balancing that with working kind of part-time to establish Clear Mountain Monastery here in Seattle. One way I balanced it was I'd be studying for a 5-month semester, but then in between that, during summer breaks and winter breaks, I would go back to Abhayagiri for periods of time, or come up here to Seattle, where I am now full-time. And that was very good. It would be a balancing of, I'm living in a dorm, which doesn't feel very monastic. I'm reading a lot of books, which doesn't feel like the forest tradition. I'm thinking a lot, which to some extent does take me up into the head and away from a heart-based awareness practice. But then coming back to forests, coming back to a sangha, not living in a dorm, but living in a hut where I go outside and everything I see is not right angles, but is rather just the beautiful organic greenness of the Abhayagiri forest, or looking out here my window, I've got great pines and beautiful trees. So yeah, that's a little bit of the balancing act.
Very nice, very nice. um, I have a question here from Nisara. Bhante, when you do meditation, do you um, Vipassana dependent origination? If you can, um, If you do, can you please tell us a little bit about that?
Hmm.
He wants to know about Vipassana meditation or dependent origination.
Mhm. Yeah. So the word vipassana, as you probably know, that is what Goenka uses to describe, or his tradition uses to describe, what other traditions call the Goenka technique, which is basically focusing on the sensation of anicca, the sensation of permanence as one can feel it through Vedana in the body. So scanning down from the top of the head to the soles of the feet, experiencing the changingness of that. So it feels like the body is constantly in motion, like the body is vibrating when you feel it from the inside, from the top of the head to the soles of the feet. That's the Goenka technique. And dependent origination is, as you probably know, how our own ignorance leads us to suffer through 12 steps or through more steps, depending on where you read it, or how our craving, when we feel something, when we feel Vedana, how that leads to craving, tanha, and that leads to attachment, upadana. So my practice very much is a form of vipassana. So vipassana literally means just seeing clearly. I no longer practice the body scanning, but I am practicing vipassana, the clear seeing of anicca, dukkha, anatta. My main practice is chittanupassana, so knowing mind is mind, along with the breath. So having the breath as a support to keep my mind awake and aware, but taking that formula in the Satipatthana Sutta of chitte chittanupassi viharati, atapi sampajano satima, vinaya loke abhijja domanasa. So one, myself, remains focused on the mind in and of itself, mind knowing mind, ardent, alert, and mindful, putting aside greed and distress with reference to the world. So as I'm sitting in meditation, watching the mind, I'm paying attention. Is greed and distress, abhijja and domanassa, are those coming up? Those are different forms of craving. So in the aspect of dependent origination, I'm watching this 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 link between Vedana and Tanha, and trying not to give rise to Tanha. So just watching Vedana, watching the sensations, the feelings in the body, the feelings in the mind. And if I start seeing a thought process that's giving rise to craving, that is wanting, or a craving which is aversive, this domanassa, pulling away, then I just come back and drop it, come back to a more spacious awareness of mind is mind. So yeah, I would say that my main practice is vipassana and dependent origination, but in an organic way which works for me. It's not technique based. That's kind of the Ajahn Chah way. One very good simile, I asked one of my teachers, Ajahn Sanyamo, if he practiced the Goenka tradition. He had ordained in the Ajahn Chah tradition, and he said that it's kind of like boxing. He says that the Goenka tradition is like boxing, where you've got like a very clear technique. You can't kick somebody, you can't bite somebody, you can't, wrestle someone to the ground when you're boxing. They're very clear rules. You just focus on the breath, or you focus on Vedana in the body, up and down scanning. Whereas the Ajahn Chah tradition is more like a no holds barred MMA. You can kick somebody, you can wrestle them to the ground. So yeah, whatever technique works to counteract the hindrances that come up, that's allowable.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Just a piggyback question, like, so if someone wants to, for example, the new beginners to Buddhism, they want to somehow introduce themselves or to explore Buddhist teachings. Um, where would you recommend? What way do you recommend? Would it be Vipassana Goenka retreat or Ajahn Chah some retreat or what? What would you recommend for newcomers who are really wanting to learn something? Take a deep dive, maybe to have a firm establishment.
Mm, very good question. And, I think it depends on each person's inclinations and proclivities and affinities. So some people, especially in the West, like myself, I have an affinity, a love for Thailand and Thai language and Thai culture, but that's not everyone's conditions. Like Bhante Sudaso, he had more affinity with the Sri Lankan tradition, Sri Lankan ways of wearing robes, and yeah, much more interaction with the Pāli canon, formal study. So different. So if this is someone in America who I meet who's interested in Buddhism, I would first see if they had any kind of cultural inclination, and also just see what their Dhamma inclination was. Like some people are only interested in meditation, in which case I probably would suggest if they have the time and they are psychologically mature and well balanced, that they go and do a 10-day Goenka retreat. It's such a good foundation, and it's the foundation for about half the monks at Abhayagiri and most of the Western monasteries. It's the channel that people come to monasteries through. But if someone, say, has less interest in meditation or just maybe seems a little bit less psychologically firm, if they've got, yeah, they're very new to meditation, I would see what else they have interested in. Are they interested in suttas? In which case, I would maybe recommend they sign up for the daily sutta email list, which is great through readingfaithfully.org. Or I might suggest if they are enough into the suttas that they read the Majjhima Nikaya from beginning to end, or they start memorizing the Dhammapada. If they are interested in training and precepts, I would very much recommend that they go to a monastery and formally take precepts, start reading about precepts, start hanging around people who keep precepts, and definitely monasteries are that place. It's a very, you go to a Ajahn Chah monastery and you don't know if the monks are meditating 3 hours a day or 10 hours a day or more, but you know that everyone is very sincere and everyone is keeping the rules, trying to keep the rules to the best they can. So recommend a place where, that's what people do. It's like the Buddha said, if I find that I am not a generous person, I should go and live and learn from people who are generous, stay around them, befriend people who are generous. If I'm not very good with my precepts or my integrity, go and live around people who are very moral and have high virtue. If I don't know how to study, I'm not very learned, go and live around scholars. And so I could definitely would recommend different things. Might recommend Goenka, might recommend Abhayagiri, would recommend people come if they're in Seattle. It's a locational thing as well. You meet people on Zoom and they're zooming in from all over the world. I probably recommend they go someplace in their own country or their own region. If someone was anywhere near you, Bhante, I would highly recommend they go and pay respects to you and come and learn from you. So
Wonderful. Yeah, if you stay in California, probably at the forest, um, um, and also Abhayagiri. If you are particularly interested in practicing as a woman, you can go to Dhammadahini or Aranya Bodhi Hermitage, where Ayata Kaloka and that whole um, whole range of bhikkhunis are doing a great Dhamma service, Dhamma learning practice. And then if you are in the East Coast, yes, you can also probably can come to the empty cloud. And West Virginia, we have Bhante Lakkhana, and yeah, there are quite a few more places. In St. Louis, we also have a place called Right Mindfulness Training Academy. There, where you also can have formal education and also practice. That's a beautiful center. I'm also working there. Mostly we teach online some formal courses where they are offered. People can attend, and certificates can be issued to them by a university in Sri Lanka, Canadian University. And also, you can come to Clear Mountain if you are somewhere in Seattle. uh,
yeah.
Meet Ajahn Kovilo and Ajahn Misako. And probably there are more places. In New York, we have Long Island Meditation Center. Bhante Nanda's place and to other places too. I think Bhikkhu is Chongyang Monastery.
Hmm.
uh, is also offering some courses, right? Bhikkhu also is offering a lot of online teaching. So yeah,
Hmm.
wonderful places for all of us to learn, especially for newcomers or young people who are interested in practicing. These are some of the resources that we want to share with
Hmm.
you.
Yeah, thank you, Bhante.
Yes, I think I should not leave this question from um, Dhamma read. I want to ask a question in regard to an entry I've been reading in the Lakkhana Sutta Dighanikaya 30. Why can some people during the Buddha's time recognize the Buddha upon their first encounter?
Hmm.
Is there any correspondence or relation to their own ignorance? I look forward to hearing your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I like that question. I like that sutta a lot. So Digha Nikaya number 30, the Mahapurisa Lakkhana Sutta, the discourse on the Buddha's 32 hallmarks or 32 characteristics. Um, yeah, and some of them seem, depending on the translation. So part of it is translation. So Maurice Walsh, who translated the Digha Nikaya, the probably most readily accessible wisdom publication version of the Digha Nikaya, translates the first characteristic as, which is supatita. He translates it as the Buddha has flat feet. And which is it's not a very inspiring thing. Supatita means thoroughly grounded or very well established feet. And he admits, like, there's a footnote to the Lakkhana Sutta in the Digha Nikaya version of Maurice Walsh, where he says, this is perhaps the most uninspiring or least inspiring sutta in the whole collection. So that is a rather biased approach, and that does affect how he translates things. So if you can actually go back to the Pāli, it doesn't seem outlandish. And some of these characteristics, like it says that, the Buddha had the proportions of a banyan tree, so long arms, or that he could, while standing, touch his knees. So the Buddha had long arms. Most of these, I think there is a rational explanation so that the Buddha doesn't look freakish. If you take it literally, or this kind of uncharitable translation, then some of them just do seem outside of normal limits. Or if you read the commentaries, which purport that the Buddha was 12 feet tall or 9 feet tall, that is not in the earliest suttas. The Buddha wasn't, no human is, maybe there's the Guinness Book of World Records, somebody's 9 feet tall, but the Buddha wasn't. So you've got the Samanyapala Sutta, Digha Nikaya number 2, where Ajatasattu goes into the forest and the Buddha's sitting there with all these monks and he doesn't know which one is the Buddha. And as you rightly point out, if the Buddha was 9 feet or 12 feet tall, and had these flat feet and super long, overly long arms, and had wheel marks on his feet and other things, he would be, very recognizable. Whereas some of these things, I think, can be read symbolically. So like Enijunga, something like that, he has antelopes like a calf. And it's very easy to say that in English we've got a phrase, he's got hawk-like eyes. He's got eyes like a hawk. So, calves like an antelope. Maybe he had muscular thighs, or maybe he had muscular calves. And maybe he was just, each one of these in that sutta is related to a quality. So I find that more inspiring. It's a way of looking at a Buddha statue or another person and seeing, this mark between the eyes, this tuft of white hair. That's because the Buddha was honest in past lives. So I can look at a Buddha Rupa and see, I can be inspired. And when I look at that tuft, this unha, I believe it is, Ushnisha, that's because the Buddha told the truth, and I can tell the truth too. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of charitable readings of these different marks. And yeah, I think the Buddha was very handsome. It says in many suttas that the Buddha was very handsome. He probably was taller than average, but yeah, I think it would be, as you're suggesting, someone like Ajatasattu, who had committed patricide, who had killed his father, did not have a very refined sense, that he wouldn't see some of these more subtle marks. Like there's reported to be 80 minor marks, one of which is that the Buddha has this aura. That, first of all, is from the commentaries, the 80 minor marks, and that the Buddha having this aura, that would be something which, yeah, someone who didn't have spiritual eyes, they couldn't see that. So, some thoughts?
Right. Thank you so much. That's, I think, um, yeah. So one of the points that we wanted to ask, like, why some people during the Buddha's time, did not recognize the Buddha at the first encounter. Like, you know, it's like the Buddha, if he wants, he could have, envisioned himself with all those multifaceted, the aura and everything he wants, but most of the time they would like to stay so humble and simple, and, down to earth. And that's why even Pukusati could not recognize the Buddha.
Mm.
He was living just next to, and they were actually spending the night there at the same place, guest house. But then Pukusati could not recognize the Buddha because he was just a simple person.
Mm.
And then after the teaching, only he realized, this is the person I have been long waiting to meet.
Mm.
So the Buddhas would not necessarily show up their aura or something, only if it is necessary. Like in some cases where Shakyas had a lot of ego, and it is said the Buddha showed up his, the aura. So, and also he did some magical performance in order to counterattack the conceit, the ego, the pride of the Sufis. And eventually they started following um, Buddha's life. Yeah. All right. So I think it's almost time. Maybe we will still have some still question. Maybe one question I'd like to ask. Two questions I think that will be fun. Okay. What are some challenges and rewards you encountered in learning the ancient languages of Pali and Sanskrit, especially in a modern academic setting?
Mm.
You're also learning Pali and Sanskrit, right?
Right. Well, one of the rewards is that in an academic setting, I had a teacher. So I tried to self-teach myself in these monasteries. And we've got all the books, pretty much any book on learning Pali that one could want. I've gone through it by myself, but having a teacher who could correct me and answer all my questions was huge. I started studying Pali with Bhante Sudaso when we were both novices, and he was able to teach himself Pali much more than I was. So that was one of the rewards. Is in an academic setting, I've got two great teachers, Lauren Bausch and Sean Kerr, who could answer all my questions and really took a lot of time. Some of the challenges is we're not reading the content that I want to read all the time necessarily, especially for Sanskrit. I have much more interest in Pali, and I would have loved to just be reading Pali suttas and commentary from the very beginning every single day. Whereas we're reading other things, we're reading Mahayana sutras in Sanskrit versions, and then yeah, so some challenges and rewards, but definitely I'm grateful for the classes.
Right. Okay. So maybe with one last question, we will finish. um, so this is regarding Clear Mountain Monastery. that you and Ajahn Kovilo are working on. How do you envision Clear Mountain Monastery serving the local community in Seattle?
Hmm.
And what unique contribution do you think it will offer?
Yeah, I think it will have a lot to offer. It already does. So we don't have land yet. We're mostly a monastery online, but we do have teachings every Saturday morning in person from 9:30 to 11:30 at a local church called St. Mark's Cathedral in Capitol Hill. And yeah, we've got groups of 60, 70, sometimes over 100 people coming every Saturday, plus groups online. We have Wednesday teachings live on YouTube from 6 to 6:45 Pacific Standard Time. And oftentimes those will be interviews. And then after that, we have a Zoom meeting from 6:45 to 7:30 where people can come and share. And it's a really robust and healthy community. People have a deeper interest in Buddhism than just meditation. And once we have land, we'll be able to offer a place for people to come. We're planning on founding our monastery just half an hour from downtown Seattle. So that will be close enough where people can actually come for morning and evening chanting and meditation sessions. We also are alms mendicants, so there's a chance for people to offer food to us. What a great way to start your day. We come to Pike's Place Market and are there from 7 to 7:45 every day, and it's amazing. That's something which most Americans have not experienced. And yeah, coming from a monastic setting, not only the teachings from Ajahn Nisabo and I that we've gained from our teachers in studies of the Pali Canon and the living tradition of Thailand and the greater Theravada world, but also we invite other teachers. Aya Nanda Bodhi is one of our sister bhikkhunis who lives right across the Sound. The Venerables Aya Jnanika and Aya Subhijana live in Olympia and come up and teach in our community often. Lumpur Pasana will be teaching with us in 2 weeks. Aya Santusika, Aya Chitananda will come teach with us next week, this coming weekend. So yeah, introducing monastics to lay people. So
Yeah,
yeah,
pretty
hope
much like in Empty Cloud.
kind of like Empty Cloud, yeah. And
Right.
would love it, Bante. We really look forward to when you can visit. So
Yeah,
we'll have to
definitely.
make that happen.
Yeah, I definitely would like to come one day soon. So I remember like uh, Venerable Siddhasa also started in Rockaway Beach,
Mhm.
just um, temporary meditation center. They just rented and then they moved to here. In this beautiful, 100 years old, beautiful church here, and we can practice here. Lots and lots of people come here Sunday and Saturday, and they have a lot of online teachings as well. Yeah, and now they are also establishing another monastery in Italy, so they are growing, and I'm sure the mountain monastery will be also a reality soon, not only um, online but also on the ground level. They would be able to establish a beautiful monastery to help benefit the community. And I wish and pray that this reality will come true. And dear friends, if you are interested in taking a look at Clear Mountain Monastery, I have shared the link here. Please take a look and help as much as you can. You can donate, or you can also take a look at the monastery and see what you can do to help this beautiful Dhamma center.
Mm.
Okay, so with that, we would like to really conclude today, and thank you so much, Ajahn, for your time. I know you also had an event today, but you still came up with this, and I really appreciate your time. And we look forward to seeing you, and I also look forward to seeing you in Play Mountain sometime. And also, we would like to invite more wonderful monks in our future sessions to share their wisdom for the benefit of our Dhamma community. With that, we conclude today's session. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I'd like to actually invite Ajahn Kovilo to chant a little bit in maybe uh, your own Thai accent
Okay,
style of Pāli
sure, sure.
to conclude our session.
Okay. Sabitio vivachantu, sambarogo vinasato, mate bhavadvantarayo sukhidikayuko bhava, abhivadana sile sanicham udapachayino, chataro dhamma vadante, ayuvano sukhang bala.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And also, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today with this event. I appreciate Sangamita, Kalyani, Parapiti, and Wheel of Wisdom, and Chang Di Tong, and Chaplain Arun Sida, Jayanta Fernando, Ashok Kandi, Nisada Dakshita, Acharyawan Mahasika, and Mahakita, and Nayan Barua, and yeah, so a lot of people, Pasika, Mudita, and Vivian Chong. And thank you everyone for joining, and hope you enjoyed the session today, and wish you all a very happy day with peace, happiness, and good health. With the blessings of the Noble to present, we are signing off today. Good night and farewell.